Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Weekly Pickup Show. We're at Week 1 on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Pickup Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Make sure you go to BetNow.eu, use the promo code TRUTH50 to get up to a 50% cash back bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000, or you can go through the GruelingTruth.com banner at the top of the page and use the promo code TRUTH50 to get that 50% cashback bonus. I am your co-host for the NFL Pick'em Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I would like to welcome my esteemed guest and co-host. You'll hear two of these guys every week. The last one I introduced you won't, and by the time 10 minutes in, you'll realize why he's not going to be back another week. First up, let's start off. Now everybody's waiting to see who goes last. Let's go to a man who is the biggest shill for the San Francisco 49ers that ever lived, Matt Andruscavage. How you doing, Matt?
I'm great. What an intro. Thank you.
There you go. I'm always nice. You know how much love I have for the Niners from my youth. Next up, we've got a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I know every Bengal fan just hung up out of fear. Help me welcome to the show, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
I'm doing good, but I was expecting a lot better intro than that. So you might, next week, let's work on that a little bit.
Well, you win, and next week I will give you the greatest intro you've ever had.
That'll work.
All right. And last and certainly least, he is a junior high football coach at Taylor High School, so his football knowledge is absolutely unparalleled by anybody we've ever had on even a legend show. Help me welcome to the show the coach of Taylor Middle School football, who got his ass spanked like 40-0 in his first game last week, Scott Wilson. How you doing, Scott?
I'm good. The highlight of our game was our female snapper snapping it correctly to the punter. That was the highlight.
Okay. So,
yeah.
I mean, there you go. Did you teach her that, Scott?
No.
I didn't think so. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start talking. We're week 1 of the NFL season. Of course, you get the big story of Ezekiel Elliott, a bunch of other stories circulating. What is the thing that strikes your interest the most headed into this season, Matt?
Well, I'm excited about my team, first of all, so that would definitely be first and foremost. But apart from my own team, because we all have our favorite teams, but apart from that, I think the NFC is just going to be a lot of fun. The NFC to me looks like it's got a lot of good quality teams. I think there's some really good division races. I'm not really sure what I think about the AFC, although I'm starting to believe a little bit in Kansas City again. I was kind of wondering how good their defense might be, but I think Pat Mahomes is just a really good player, and he's going to be fun to watch in year 2. So there's obviously some great stuff in the NFC, and also some players to watch as well, like Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes in the AFC.
All right. Schmitty, same question.
Matt hit a lot of it, but for me, as a Steeler fan, for me to say this, our Steeler fans are now going to hang up. I'm interested to see what happens with the Cleveland Browns. Have they turned a corner? Obviously you look at the offense on paper and you think, man, there's a lot of talent there, but you still got to play defense. You still got to protect your quarterback, and there's some interesting parts there. Beckham, is he going to be a head case? Pittsburgh thankfully got rid of their biggest head case, and the Raiders are finding that out now. So Cleveland's going to be interesting. Is this a playoff team? Is this a team that looks good on paper and not going to make the playoffs? There's a lot with that I think they can be a very fun team to watch, but for a lot of different reasons. Yes, they could have a great offense, but this also could be a team that could implode as well. So they're going to be an interesting team to watch.
It is still the Cleveland Browns, Schmitty, so we know they're probably going to implode at some point.
Absolutely. But interesting to watch nonetheless.
All right, next up, Scott. Don't say anything about the Bengals. There's nothing interesting in Cincinnati.
No, I will. I'm excited for 4 reasons. One, I want to see how Pittsburgh does, given they don't have their running back and their stud receivers. They're gone. It'll be interesting to see how Roethlisberger does, and if Schuster's supposed to be a number 1. I'm just, as a Bengals fan, I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited for Oakland. I want to see how Richie Incognito does playing for Gruden. If he gets any flags, I watched Hard Knocks. I thought I really like Gruden. I think he's a good coach. I'm excited. I think they're going to be better. New England, because I respect the hell out of Brady. I want to just what he's done at this age is crazy. And and with the Bengals, I think they're going to do better than people think. I think they have a chance to win.
So you think they'll win a couple games?
Excuse me, junior high coach talking. Thank you. I think they're gonna actually do a better job as far as coaching. I think they will not lose because of bad coaching.
Why will they lose this year, you think? Just bad players?
I think with their coach, well, number one, they won't burn their timeouts. They'll keep those. I think the head coach is really into analytics. So
they're
I think exactly.
I mean, analytics are for losers anyways. Bill Belichick doesn't use analytics that much, does he?
Well, I'm excited. It's a different era in Bengals.
I can honestly tell you this, Scott. I've never been less excited about a Cincinnati Bengals season than this one.
Once again, we disagree, and that's great.
Yeah, I know it's great for me because every time so far I've been right. Now, what happened to A.J. McCarron being a Pro Bowl quarterback someday in the NFL?
He's no longer part of this team. Let's just move on from that, Michael. Thank you.
Is he a part of any team?
I gotta ask you, Mike. Is Scott the one that was very pro A.J. McCarron?
Oh yes, he was.
Yes.
And now he'll be the guy that is like the first incomplete pass in the Bengals Seahawks game. Scott's gonna have a post on Facebook where it says, "Why can't we just put Ryan Finley in now?"
I like Finley. I do like that. You're saying, read my mind, Michael. Read my mind.
Hey, I love Ryan Finley. I mean, Matt was on the
think he's
draft
good.
show when I said he was the best quarterback in the draft, but
Yeah.
there's no reason to get him killed right now with Bobby Hart starting on the line. We got a little bit of
Their line's
static
awful.
from somewhere. Where do we get the static from?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I can't hear anybody.
Yeah, I can hear, but it's kind of muffled.
I can hear you guys. It's kind of weird, though.
Yeah, it definitely is a little weird.
All right, so we apologize, but we're going to continue.
All right.
Let's start off with the first game of the week. And this week, since we're sponsored by BetNow.eu, we are using the point spreads, and maybe me and Matt won't be in a proverbial tie, or the eternal tie that we're always in. And Matt, I'll start off with you, since you're a huge Packers fan. They're getting 3 points in Chicago. Who do you like here?
Well, I think you asked me who I like between the Packers and the Bears.
Yeah.
I believe the Bears are favored by 3. I do think the Bears are the better team. They're at home. I am going to take the Bears and the points. I don't know that the Bears are going to be as good as they were last year, but I also don't know that they're going to lose to a team like the Packers. The Packers may be good this year. Yeah, I think there's a lot of question marks, especially on the offensive line. Can the running back stay healthy? Can they get anything out of Jimmy Graham? How will the wide receivers respond without veteran Randall Cobb? Second year in a row now without Jordy Nelson. So it's a lot of question marks there. The Bears, on the other hand, I think they're still really good defensively. Can Mitch Trubisky be not get into a sophomore slump? As long as he does not turn into a turnover machine, I think the Bears will do just fine. I like the running backs. The receivers are good. The scheme is good. The Bears should win this division, and I think they'll get off to their first win on Thursday night.
Okay. Brian, do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I never have had a lot of faith in the Green Bay Packers, but I have even less now. And I just think the Bears defensively, I think they're very good. I think, again, and I agree with Matt, Trubisky, the key is just don't turn the ball over. You can almost, for the Bears, you can almost play a field position game. let your defense win. You're going to get mistakes and then take advantage of them. And so I see the Bears being able to win this and cover it.
Now, do you have any concern that there's no Jordan Howard there this year? They're going with Tariq Cohen instead, because I think Jordan Howard's a hell of a running back, and I think he's a huge loss for this offense.
Yeah, I do too. But, I think that there's still enough there. And the key to the Bears this season is obviously going to be their defense. That's where they're going to win and lose games. And I think that's a defense where offensively you don't have to take chances. You play field position, play within yourself. You let your defense put you in good situations, and that's how they're going to win football games. That's going to be the ingredient.
All right, so Schmidt, you're taking the Bears and giving the points?
Yep.
All right, Scott.
All right, I'm actually going to go with I think I'm going to go with Green Bay on this one because Aaron, it's a different offense. It's a new coach. I think everybody's talking about the Bears' defense, but Aaron Rodgers is really, really, really good still. So I just think this is the kind of game where people are, everybody's going one way, and Aaron Rodgers, man, you just can't count him out. And I think this is the kind of game where I think he's going to step up and he's going to hold this one out. I think it's going to be like 24-23. I don't think it's going to be by a lot, but I think
you're not
Green Bay
picking the Packers to win. You're just taking the Packers with the points.
Exactly. Just saying.
All right, I'm going to go with the Bears, but I am kind of a toss-up here because I don't think the Bears are going to be near as good this year. The thing about the Bears to me is they intercepted like 27 passes last year, and how many times do we see a team that jumps out of nowhere because they get a ton of turnovers? And then the next year they drop back to being a 500 team because those turnovers don't come as easy the next year. I think that's a big thing. And also, I'm taking Chicago here just because I think the defense is really good. And I think it's possible Green Bay could be last in this division, Matt.
Yeah, I do too. I think I'm not saying that they will be last, but the Lions and the Vikings are very competitive. I think the Lions have improved, especially on defense. The Vikings are still a pretty good team. There's no reason to think that either one of those teams are bad. Stafford's a good quarterback. I think you got good coaches all over the division. This is probably the most competitive division that Aaron Rodgers has faced by and large. When Detroit's not a gimme anymore. Minnesota's not a gimme. These are all really tough games, and if they get off to a slow start, which they could, if that happens and Rodgers starts having problems with the coach, that could escalate pretty quickly.
Yeah, hopefully that happens. Not that I hate the Packers, but I don't like their fans. Next up, we've got the Atlanta Falcons at the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota is favored at home by 4 points, Brian.
Yeah, and I'm going to take Atlanta in the points. I'm not saying Atlanta's going to win this, but I'm going to take Atlanta points. Something about this, it doesn't sit right with me, the 4 points. It doesn't sit right. I don't feel comfortable with that. I like Minnesota, but Atlanta early on, I think sometimes can be a little bit tough. I like them, offensively. I like Ryan, so I'll take Atlanta in the points on this.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Brian here. I like Atlanta in the points because I think Atlanta, Matt, and I'll let you pick this game next, I think Atlanta's defense is underrated. And offensively, you still got Matt Ryan. I think this is going to be a close game. I'm not necessarily picking Atlanta to win the game, but I think it's going to be a close, probably fairly high-scoring game. What's your take on it, Matt?
I definitely see where Atlanta has an opportunity to win this game. This is not a slam dunk for Minnesota by any stretch of the imagination. Atlanta still has a pretty good offense. And like you said, people don't really talk a lot about their defense. I think they've got a good one over there. It's hard to say. I don't think that they've really regained what they were when they went to the Super Bowl. They're not that kind of offense anymore, but they're still very good. So Minnesota's going to have their hands full. That said, I think I'm going to take Minnesota at home, but I don't know that they're going to cover that. I don't know that they're going to cover the 4 points. I think this is a 3-point. This is probably going to be won by a field goal at the end by one of the kickers.
So do you want to take Atlanta with the points just to be safe?
I guess that would be the correct. I guess that would be the correct way to phrase it then.
Okay, so you want to go with the Falcons and take it to 4 points?
Yes.
All right. See, I'm not trying to cut your throat mercilessly. Scott?
So actually, I agree with him, which is weird because I hardly agree with any of you guys. I'm usually the one that's wrong all the time. But I do think I think having Kirk Cousins at quarterback is a good thing for Minnesota, for Minnesota. I just think it's a tall order to try to stop this Atlanta defense. I think the game's like Mike, you were saying. I think it's going to be close. I don't know if it'll be as high scoring. So I would take Atlanta and the points on this.
Yeah, I think you're going to get something like 27-24 because I think both offenses are good enough. Even if the defenses are good, they're going to score some points. Next up, we got the Washington Redskins travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Redskins are getting 10 points. Eagles favored by 10. I'll start this one off. That's a lot of points in an NFL game, especially a season opener. But since I think the Philadelphia Eagles will win this year's Super Bowl, I'm going to go with the Eagles, Scott.
I am too because, what would you say the spread was, 9?
10.
10? I think the Eagles they're just going to explode. I think it's going to be a 10, at least a 10-point, if not more. I'm not a big fan of Washington. I just don't think they're very good, so I'm going with the Eagles.
Well, any team that's got a Gruden is poorly coached. Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take the Eagles and the 10. Washington, to me, is just not a great football team. I like Philadelphia, and at first I was thinking, boy, that's a high point spread. But then when you really start to think about it, I think it's about right. So I'll take that.
All right, Matt, do you agree with everybody else, or are you going your own way, as Fleetwood Mac would say?
I am definitely agreeing with everybody on this one. I think Washington is an absolutely terrible team, definitely the worst team in that division. The Eagles should absolutely destroy them. So, yeah, they're going to win by more than 10.
All right, I agree they're terrible, because I think I had them ranked 30th on the power rankings. You need to do that with me this year, so I'm not voting by myself, Matt. Like we did last year.
I'll do what I can.
But, all right, next up, we got the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. Scott, the Buffalo Bills are favored by 3 points. The game is in New York, of course, because it's Buffalo and the Jets.
I thought the Jets were favored by 3.
That's what I just said.
I think Josh
No, you said
Allen
Buffalo.
Buffalo's getting 3 points is what I meant to say. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't trust Josh Allen yet. I just don't. I'm taking the Jets on this one, and I think they're going to win by a lot.
By a lot? I don't think they win by a lot. I'm going to take the Jets, but I'm also going to make this prediction. I think between the Bills or the Jets, one of those two teams will make the playoffs this year. I think they both have really good defenses. I think they both have guys that could develop into being really good quarterbacks. Yeah. I'm taking the Jets here because I like Sam Darnold better than Josh Allen, Matt.
Yeah, I like the Jets here, too. I do think they win by more than 3, but I think it's probably going to be something like a 27-21 or maybe like a 20-14 type game. It'll be somewhat close. I think both teams will have their chances to win. But I'm with you. I like Sam Darnold. I do like the Le'Veon Bell acquisition. I think he rebounds after sitting the season out. I think he'll do just fine. And they got a nice young defense. I like Robbie Anderson at wide receiver. This is definitely. I don't know that I'm not saying that you're definitely off your rocker on the playoff prediction because I do see the potential in both teams. I'm just not sure. I think the Jets have the best chance out of there. I'm just not sure they'll do it this year, but they will probably get close if they don't do it.
Well, see, my other thing is this. I don't think the AFC is very strong. So
yeah, that's another thing.
And the defense, when you add C.J. Mosley, Jamal Adams, guys like that, I mean, I think you got a chance to do what the Bears did last year in the NFC, do it this year in the AFC, Brian?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm going to take the Jets. I also agree. I don't think it's crazy to think that one of these teams could make the playoffs because I think the AFC is a little down. But the biggest problem I have with this game, and I'm taking Jets, but in my head, all I think about is watching. Anybody that has to watch this game, it's going to be like watching paint dry. I see nothing exciting about watching this game.
I do. You know what I see that's exciting about it? I think that both teams have really pretty uniforms, and with all the colors, it's going to look really nice on the field.
My wife
there you go.
See? And Scott's wife has never been wrong except for what she said. I do.
Well, listen, you smart ass. All right. I'm not saying you're wrong on that one either. Anyway, no,
that's all right. I married way over my head too, so.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we all got the Jets.
No, I agree. I agree with you, Michael. I totally agree with you.
Next up, which part? The Bills and the Jets?
That you married way above your league.
Oh, hell. Don't be so bitter, Scott. Next up, we got the Baltimore Ravens at the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are getting 7 points. Ravens are favored by 7, Brian.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take the Ravens in this. But I'll tell you, I'm still not sold on Baltimore. I'm still not sold on Jackson. But Miami is as we see in the NBA with teams that are tanking. I truly believe the Miami Dolphins are tanking this season.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take Baltimore.
Yeah, but are they tanking or are they just being smart? Because they've got so many draft picks now, Brian, that this team could be rebuilt within a couple years without making huge. Yeah, so I don't think it is like an NBA team necessarily because let's face it, with the NBA, unless there's a LeBron James or somebody that's a real stud coming out at number 1, it's kind of a crapshoot in the NBA draft.
Oh, they're tanking, but I don't disagree with what they're doing. I mean, they're basically saying we're tanking this season so we can rebuild, and I think what they're doing is the right thing. But let's be honest, it's probably not going to be pretty this year for the Miami Dolphins.
All right, but the great thing is Chris Cook, who does Game Day IQ with us, will weekly burn different Dolphin paraphernalia out of disgust with his team. So that's always enjoyable to watch.
Oh, yes, that is, especially when he videos it.
At the campground. All right, Matt, Baltimore, Miami. Baltimore is favored by 7.
I'll take the Ravens to win by more than 7. I agree that Miami. I think they're playing this pretty smart. They're unloading guys for an absolute war chest of draft picks. I caught that the other day. The amount of picks that they have, I think they got at least 2 first-rounders, a couple second-rounders, and then there could be more. They're pretty much unloading everybody, and so they're not going to be very good this year. Though I'm sure they'll not. I don't know that they're going to try to lose, but they're not going to be putting a very good team on the field this year. So they're going to lose a lot of games. The Ravens, I too am not totally sold on what the Ravens have on their team. I do think they've got some good players. And I do think their young quarterback is at least interesting enough to win some games. It should be competitive just because we're not sure about Cleveland. We're really not sure about Cincinnati or Pittsburgh. It's just a lot of question marks in that division. So Lamar Jackson, they could lead them to a division title. But for sure, they beat Miami this time.
Yeah, I agree, Scott. I'm going to go with Baltimore. I'm going to give the 7 points. How about you?
Well, first to understand, Ryan Fitzpatrick has an amazing beard, so we need to acknowledge that. The fact that they have Ryan Fitzpatrick is really bad for the most part, but I think he occasionally will have a really, really good game, but not against his defense. I think Baltimore's defense. I think there's going to be an absolute ass kicking. I think I think Lamar Jackson. I don't know how well he's going to do. I think teams are going to expose him, as far as the way they try to contain him, except he's electrifying to watch. Also, like I said, with Mark Ingram, I'm curious to see how he does. I just think Baltimore's defense is just really, really good with Earl Thomas, Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Williams. I think Baltimore, this is going to be a blowout. Although I could see Fitzpatrick because I just think this is the kind of game that he feasts on when everybody's picking a butt kicking. But I think Baltimore's just too good. I think they win by more than 7.
Yeah, I think Baltimore wins the AFC North also. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and a plethora of former convicts will go to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. And the Jacksonville's at home, and they're a 4-point dog, Brian.
Yeah, and they are going to lose by 4 more points to Kansas Chiefs. This Jacksonville team, I'm not really excited about, and I think Patrick Mahomes just makes Kansas City such a threat. I just think of him as a quarterback, and yes, with the convicts around him, they're such a threat offensively to be the best offense in the league. So they're going to score some points. I still don't think this is a Super Bowl team. I'm just not sold defensively that they're going to be that great, but they'll score some points and be exciting in the off season.
All right, Matt.
Or in the regular season.
All right, Matt.
I'm tempted to take Jacksonville in the points, but I do think Kansas City wins by a touchdown. I think Jacksonville does have a good young nucleus. Defensively, they've got some pieces there. If Nick Foles can be, I'm sure he can be better than Blake Bortles. I gotta believe that. But I'm just not sure about Jacksonville. I think they've got potential, but I just don't see how they're gonna, even if they hold Kansas City to 27 points, I'm not sure that they'll score more than 20. So I'm going to take Kansas City by a touchdown
too, though, Matt. So that'll help.
I realize that. I do realize that Kansas City's defense is not going to be what it was last year. But I don't know. I just see the Chiefs being able to put up one more touchdown than the Jaguars.
All right, Scott.
Well, I think Kansas City. I think there's just no way that Jacksonville is going to be able to keep up. However, like he was saying, Nick Foles, didn't he beat Mahomes in a previous matchup? Like was in the AFC playoff game?
I would think that Nick Foles has never beaten him in an AFC playoff game.
No, because he played for Philly. I'm stupid. Let's just pretend that's what you don't say. I apologize.
I don't know if Mike's going to strike that from the record.
I know. Well,
I'm just going to take a gamble. I don't know that he's going to do it.
No, it'll still be there tomorrow when you wake up and listen.
Nice.
That might be the headline, Scott. Just so you know, it might be the headline.
Scott Wilson thinks Nick Foles in the AFC playoffs dominated Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, well, I see we want to have our fun here. That's great. No, I think actually the running back that won Damian Williams last year, when he after Kareem Hunt was traded, his average went up from 73 yards to 83 a game. So I think they're fine even without Kareem Hunt. And I think that Mahomes is such a weapon that you can't. It's just going to be a high. Kansas City going to score. It's just a matter of Jacksonville can keep up. I do think Kansas City on the road, their offense isn't going to be as electrifying. I just think it's tough to win on the road game one, but I'd take the Chiefs on this one.
Well, I think
give the points.
People are missing the fact that Jacksonville's defense is one of the few defenses that may be equipped to handle this. I mean, you got Jalen Ramsey, you got A.J. Boye in the backfield, you got Miles Jack, Calais Campbell. I'm going to go with the Jaguars to cover and to win this game, even though it will be roundly mocked. Because
Jags to win.
The Jags to win. But it doesn't matter because if they lose by 4, I still cover and you guys lose. So that's the great thing about point spreads. Next up, we've got the Tennessee Titans. Travel to Cleveland to take on Otto Graham and Jim Brown, coached by Paul Brown, if you listen to it on NFL Network right now. But the Cleveland Browns, without an offensive line, will host the Tennessee Titans, and the Browns are favored by 5.5. Brian?
I'm taking the Browns. First game coming out, new team. They're going to be excited. They're gonna have parties in the streets in Cleveland. So I'm gonna take the Browns. They're going to come out hot, but again,
We're going to see a lot with this team through the season.
I think this, Brian. I think I heard today that they're going to have a parade Tuesday through Cleveland if they win.
I wouldn't be surprised. Look, I think this offense for Cleveland, I think, has great potential. I'm a fan of what they can be on paper because I love good offenses, but there's that part. This is the Cleveland Browns, so I think they'll win this one, but be interesting to see what they do for the season.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Brian. I think they do win this game. I think it could be closer than what we think. I think the 5.5 is a little rough because I think the Titans are a solid team, but they always are a solid team that's hovering around 8-8. Matt, what do you think?
I think the Browns are going to be really good the first 2 weeks of the season. They're going to beat the Titans and the Jets, and then everyone's going to think they're going to be really good, and I think they're going to have some problems. But for this week, I think they cover. It could be a close game, but I'm going to pick them to cover that spread.
All right, Scott.
So the Cleveland, didn't the Browns, I think they released a tackle, the starting tackle, and then they re-signed him this week. And I don't think he's terrible. So
is he worse than Bobby Hart?
No, but
okay.
You were saying that about their line. I mean, I think I'm taking Cleveland, but only because I think Mayfield is good. He's so good, and he just really knows how to win. And I think he's very accurate. I think Tennessee may keep up with them for a quarter, but it's home at Cleveland. This is pretty neat thing for Browns fans. They ought to enjoy this. I think Cleveland's got a chance to be pretty good this year. I just don't think Tennessee can keep up. I think Cleveland might win by 2 touchdowns.
All right, this may be the year where, Scott, I actually cheer for the Steelers if they play the Browns just because I'm getting tired of all the obnoxious Browns fans. I don't know how you can be obnoxious when you've sucked since, 2002. Yeah. And the last time you didn't suck, just like our Bengals, you pissed away a big lead in the playoff game against the Steelers.
Right.
So, all right. Next up is a game that I think is really interesting. The Los Angeles Rams will travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Matt, you want this one first?
Sure. What are the Rams favored by?
The Rams are favored by 2.5 points.
2.5 points. I will take the Rams to cover, but I do agree. This could be a very interesting game just because we're gonna get a glimpse of Todd Gurley. There's been a lot of question marks around him. There's a lot of question marks around Jared Goff. Following the Super Bowl. Obviously, I think the Rams are a very talented team. I think they're going to be tough to beat regardless. But this could be a very interesting game, depending on the health of Cam Newton and what kind of Panther team shows up. I'm going to take the safe pick and take the Rams to cover it, but would not be surprised if Carolina were to sneak away with a win here.
All right, I'm going to say this. I think that the Panthers will win this game straight up, and they'll win it by more than a touchdown. And I'll also say this. If Cam Newton ever becomes a consistent passer, Christian McCaffrey will be the best all-around running back in the NFL. Scott, what do you got?
Actually, I hate to say it, but I agree with you completely. I think Carolina, Cam Newton is really hard to game plan against. And it's hard. If it was at LA, it'd be different. Plus, I think the Rams last year were about 50% against the spread. Carolina's 43%. So I think Carolina's going to win this outright. Although I think they like a 3-point game. So I'm taking Carolina on this.
How about this, Schmidt? When we talk about game planning for Cam Newton, I don't think he's that hard to game plan for. I think you just play coverages, don't really rush him, and make him stay in the pocket and throw the ball and see if he can beat you. But for some reason, teams don't want to do that.
Yeah, I agree, and
you made a statement that we should probably, one of the few times in your life that we should probably plaster that you made the statement, and that is if Cam Newton would ever be a consistent passer, McCaffrey be the best running back in this league.
Yeah, because he's better than Todd
to me,
Gurley and Alvin Kamara if he gets some help.
He is, because the thing that he does, not only can he run the football, but, I mean, he is such a weapon in the passing game. You can spread him out. You can do so many different things. He's one of the few running backs that you can put spread out, and he can beat corners, NFL corners, one-on-one. He is a phenomenal route runner that I don't think people really give him a lot of credit for. So I agree with your statement, and I also agree with you. I'm going to take the Panthers in this, and I think the Panthers will win this outright. I like the Rams, but being in Carolina, there's been a lot of things with this Carolina team that I think there's some real opportunity for this team to be halfway decent, but a lot of it is going to come down to Cam Newton being a consistent quarterback.
Yeah, I think their season will come down to that, but they'll win this game because I don't think Jared Goff's anything great either. Next up, I'm going to let Scott go first because he's the biggest Bengals fan in the world. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to Seattle to get bludgeoned by the Seahawks, and they're getting 9.5 points before they get their ass kicked. What do you think, Scott? You want to take the points in the Bengals?
So A.J. Green's not playing, so I just don't. At Seattle is like that's almost a just unfair task to try to go do. Andy Dalton is awful against teams that have although he did actually Dalton's 2-0 against the Seahawks.
Yeah,
Dalton's
I know. What are you talking about? So Dalton's awful, and he got him to the playoffs 5 straight years, and you got your ass beat 40-0 by an 8th grade Ross team last week.
They were pretty good, and I'm not sure if it's more that bad or they're just good, but yeah. Well, let's move on. So I think Seahawks. Actually, I think Seattle wins probably like 24-10. The Bengals. I'm real excited with their new coach. But that being said, I mean the Seattle just got clowny, and that's just not fair.
So why are you excited about the Bengals' new coach? Is it the fact that he's never called an offense or been a head coach before? And you think maybe he's going to come in and beat an ex
because he's not Marvin Lewis. He's not Marvin Lewis, and I think we finally have an offensive-minded head coach. That I think actually knows what he's doing on some things. Like they didn't screw up any.
Because what I saw in the preseason,
they didn't screw up any timeouts in one of the preseason games.
Scott, it's preseason. Nobody cares about timeouts. They just want the game to end. Let's talk about how many penalties and mistakes the first team make.
Mike, I'm not arguing that. You and I are on the same page on that. They're just not a very good team. But I think they won 6 games last year, and I think with better coaching. I mean, I don't think they got any worse talent-wise. I think
are
with better
worse
coaching,
talent-wise. I think they're worse
We'll
talent-wise.
see.
I mean, Bobby Hart is still starting to tackle, which means the offensive line is atrocious. Billy Price, bust.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, they're going to play at guard. I would rather have Michael Jordan from basketball fame play guard for the Bengals because
Michael Jordan will be their best offensive lineman. You watch.
He sucks. Michael Jordan was an Ohio State Buckeye, and the only thing I could say about Michael Jordan is the only catcher I've ever seen better was Johnny Bench. He doesn't block people. He catches them. Brian, you were an Ohio State fan. You still are.
Mike, their offensive line is so bad. He'll be the best of a bad offensive line.
I do think the best of bad is like saying you're the best-looking chick at a Jenny Craig convention.
What? That is not nice to certain
Well,
people.
I guess we can take Jim Craig off the sponsor list.
Oh, don't worry, I can edit that shit out. Go ahead. I'm not editing his stupid comments out, but my comments I can get rid of.
Nice.
I was trying to think of a joke to make, and I don't really give a damn if anybody likes it or not anyways. So, what the hell? I mean, I don't. I mean, I could care less anymore. I'm over that. So, doesn't matter. All right. So, is it safe to say that everybody's going to take Seattle and give the points here?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we've got the Indianapolis Colts, who are 6-point underdogs at Los Angeles as they take on the Chargers. Matt, what do you think? Can Jacoby Brissett get this done?
Well, perhaps in an alternate universe, or maybe if he's at home against a bad team, but probably not against the Chargers, even without Melvin Gordon, if that is indeed the case. I think the Chargers are actually pretty good. I don't know that they'll win the division or anything like that, but I do think they're going to compete for a wild card. I think Phillip Rivers is still pretty good. They got a good offense. I like their defense, although missing Derwin James for some time is going to sting. But I think they're good enough to beat the Colts. It's hard to, without Andrew Luck, I mean, this is just, it's not very good. I think Colts fans have to be disheartened, but still should not be booing Andrew Luck as he left the field. But that's just my take.
That's fine.
So I'm going to take LA in the points.
I hate the Colts, so I found it hilarious myself. Right now, you're going to take who? The Chargers and give the points?
No, I'm going to take the Chargers straight up to win to cover.
Okay, straight up to cover. All right, next up.
My bad.
Brian, my question to you is this. I hear all these Colts fans, especially Steve Risley, who thinks that they'll be fine and still make the playoffs. My question to him is always this. Marlon Mack looked like a good running back because of the threat of Andrew Luck. I think Marlon Mack is average. I think the defense, still, you got to question the pass rush. There's still a lot of questions with this team, and you remove Andrew Luck from this team, I think this is a 6 or 7 win team at best now.
Yeah, this was a team with Luck that there were some pieces there.
They had a chance.
Luck, if he's healthy,
yeah.
They've got a chance. But now I agree. I don't see it. I like the Chargers in this. And I will say this. I didn't agree with, I didn't like that the Colts fans were booing Luck. But I did hear something that I thought was interesting. And it, when this was announced, there was so much emotion with it. But, as fans, this guy's been beat up. I mean, there's got to be, sometimes you realize there's life after football. And, Andrew Luck is looking at his life and going, right now, my quality of life from the time I'm 35, 40 years old is starting to deteriorate. So I think fans have got to be a little smarter to understand that, you may not like it, but you got to look at it from a personal point of view and not from a fan point of view. And so that was kind of disappointing the way they reacted.
Well, and the thing is this, in the end, it's the Irsay's fault for never getting an offensive line the first 6 years he was there.
Yep.
I mean, if you're going to get a franchise quarterback but not draft an offensive line to go with it, you're asking for this to happen. So, Brian, are you taking the Chargers and giving the points?
Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers.
All right, Scott?
So I think the Chargers are going to win probably by about 2 touchdowns. I still the Colts have. I think they're tied for they're the 7th toughest schedule, but I just don't think their division is very good. I think the Colts have a pretty good chance to actually win that division.
I don't think they have a chance in hell. I think Jacksonville is better than people think they are. I think Tennessee's all right. Houston just got Tunsil, which helps the offensive line. So,
but I think
like
Cleveland,
this. Do you think Jacoby Brissett is better than Nick Foles?
No.
Is
but
he better
I think
yeah. I mean, I don't
better
think he's
than
better
Dalton. Yeah.
Dalton who? Andy Dalton has been. Wait a second, because let's touch on this because you always make a fool out of yourself with this Andy Dalton thing. Last year when Andy Dalton got hurt, the Bengals were 5-4 and would have been a playoff team at that point. Andy Dalton got hurt. Jeff Driscoll came in as the quarterback. You were all excited. You're like, "Ooh, Jeff Driscoll's going to be stud." And then what happened, Scott? They won one more game the rest of the year.
Blame Marvin.
Okay,
Marvin
you can blame Marvin all you want, but Andy Dalton had Marvin in a position to be in the playoffs 9 games into the season.
Well, they played it. Look at their schedule after Game 4 too. I mean, they played New Orleans. They played the Chiefs. I mean, the Browns. Well, the Browns were They played the Browns twice. They had to play.
The Browns were
Steelers
below 500
twice.
team.
They had to play the Colts.
They played the Colts week 1, and Andy Dalton threw a game-winning touchdown pass.
Well, okay, but I still think I think they played a pretty tough schedule. It's hard to gauge either way.
So you can't.
Not
gauge
sure why you're so down on.
Yeah, you can't gauge us off 5 straight playoff appearances. You're a Bengals fan, dude.
My wife wants me to tell you that I'm an eternal optimist, and that no, I'm not gambling. I'm not using this as gambling.
But how can you be pro AJ McCarron and anti Andy Dalton?
I don't think Dalton has. I think it's kind of like when you watch John Cooper. I think when the bright lights are on, if you look at his record against better than 500 teams, it's his stats are awful.
What about AJ McCarron?
Yeah.
Well, but again, AJ McCarron I'm not saying AJ McCarron's that is worth you put your franchise around.
Is AJ McCarron on a team, Brian? Do you know?
I just want to put him out there instead of Dalton. That's all.
I don't believe he is, but
I can't believe you'd say that.
So he still would rather have.
I want to see how he
AJ
does under
McCarron
this new
can't even
offense.
be the third-string quarterback in Oakland, but Scott thinks he's better than Andy Dalton.
Hold on. I think under this offense, I'm interested to see how Dalton does. Because it was just such a bad offense the way they ran it.
I'm going to say as a Steelers fan, but I've been watched the Bengals for years. I think, in my opinion, there are players in the NFL that help teams win in spite of their coaching. And I will always say this, in Pittsburgh, they've won games in spite of the coaching, and I can say the same thing about Andy Dalton and the Cincinnati Bengals for years. Is there were a lot of games they won that Marvin Lewis wasn't helping the situation. Andy Dalton, A.J. Green, a lot of these guys bailed him out. You take Andy Dalton out of that equation, and you get what you got last year. It's going to be the same thing when you take, Ben out of Pittsburgh. It's the same thing. Pittsburgh is the same kind of deal. They won games in spite of coaching. Me and Mike for years, we always went back and forth about, and we've agreed on it. The coaching in Pittsburgh, the coaching with the Bengals with Lewis, it sucked. And
you guys
they won games.
Roethlisberger is Dalton's nowhere near the class of Roethlisberger's in. Not even close.
Wait a second, though. If you give Dalton, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Hines Ward at the start of his career, how do you know what he's going to do? Heath Miller.
It won't matter because you still have Marvin Lewis.
If you switch, put Andy Dalton in Pittsburgh and you put Big Ben in Cincinnati, Big Ben would not have a ring on his finger, and Andy probably would. Because this is the thing. In the end, if you gave me a choice between Dalton and Roethlisberger and the talent that Roethlisberger had, I would take Dalton just because I think Roethlisberger has kind of become part of the problem in Pittsburgh. And that coaching staff is what allowed him to become that.
I think Pittsburgh does a lot of things right in their organization that the Bengals have not.
Like what?
And I think it would not.
I agree with that. But if we're talking coaching, if we're let's not go organizational.
Yeah, organization is not Mike Tomlin.
Yes.
I think Marvin Tomlin's a lot better than Marvin. You can not like him as a fan, but Marvin was just awful.
Hey, this is the thing. The game that I always remember is the game about 5 years ago. The Bengals go to Pittsburgh, and the winner wins the division. And what happened was Mike Tomlin, they basically, you remember this game, Schmidt, it's the one where the Bengals end up kicking the 43-yard field goal at the end to win the game.
With that kicker they signed before that.
It's because Josh Brown or something like that, but it was Tomlin and Marvin basically having a duel of dimwits, giving the game back and forth to each other. And at the end, I forget what it was, but I think Tomlin tried in a tie game, he tried like a 50-yard field goal on that old Heinz Field stuff where you couldn't kick a 50-yard field goal. He gives the Bengals the ball at like the 35 or 40-yard line, and then Dalton just completes a 30-yard pass down the middle of the defense. They call timeout, kick a field goal, win the game. Mike Tomlin and Marvin Lewis are the same. The difference is this. Ownership and organization in Pittsburgh is miles ahead of the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure they're the same. I think Dalton can manage games, whereas Roethlisberger will win games.
No, see, that's bullshit. Because I mean, maybe Brian disagrees with me, but to me, Brian, the biggest thing to being a quarterback is being able to manage the game. I mean, what's Tom Brady?
Here's the difference. And from what Scott's saying and what you're saying, here's the difference is the one thing about Tom Brady. Tom Brady manages the game, but when it's on the line and he's got to go get it, he'll make throws and he'll make plays.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with and I've seen the same thing with Dalton at times, but I agree Pittsburgh overall has had talent at other positions that I think I somewhat agree with Mike, although I think Ben is a little bit better quarterback overall than Dalton. I still think if you put Dalton in Pittsburgh, I still think Dalton has a ring in the same time period. Because again, the rings that Ben got. You look at the Super Bowl win against Seattle. He played like dog crap.
And he was a game manager that whole year and the year before that when he took him to the playoffs. They basically just didn't want Ben to lose him the game.
Right.
If you take the win against Arizona, he did have to have that drive, but it was a great stretch by Holmes, that won that game. And then also a great defensive play.
James Harrison.
We saw some great defensive play. Yeah. So I do agree that I think Dalton would have been in the same situation. I think he would have won a ring, but I think the biggest thing is we got to realize is Dalton is a lot better quarterback than what, there are people that, and I've heard the same argument. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think you really have to look at what's been around him and the coaching. And you have to look that Dalton has won games that, quite honestly, he shouldn't have won because of the coaching.
Hey, put it like this, Scott. Andy Dalton is so good, he actually got the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs.
Look, I was at a game sitting in the end zone, and Dalton, he threw a pick six. I want to say it was against Seattle, and he didn't even look at the tight end to the left. Yeah. He was wide open. He just turned and threw it. And so I just don't – I think –
Well, all I can tell you is this. You always tell stories like that, but when you're on the Bengals show with Joe Kelly tells you what? All the receivers said that A.J. McCarron couldn't read a defense, and that's why they lost to the Steelers in the playoffs.
Well, Dalton can't either. So
that's crap. Do you know what? You
he
can't
didn't even
read
look
a defense.
At
How can you tell me that somebody can't read a defense if you can't read it?
I'm just because when I look again now I see.
No, you're just looking at it. This is the thing.
When you look at you look at Brady, even Finley. They all. I don't know. However the Bengals do go through their progressions, whatever it is. You don't see Dalton. You don't see his helmet swivel where he's looking his first guy. But you see that. You see that with Brady. You see that with Roethlisberger is a god when it comes to having almost like being able to pull rabbit.
Yeah, because the Pittsburgh Steelers, with more of a game manager at quarterback, may have been to a couple more Super Bowls.
Roethlisberger, if I had to pick three quarterbacks that I would want with the ball in their hands, where it's like a minute to go on your own 20, I want Roethlisberger with the ball. I just think he will take risks, and I think he does well in those situations.
Yeah, but that is great for those situations. The problem is guys like him and Brett Favre take those risks all game long and hurt you. I love Ben Roethlisberger. I thought he was a great quarterback at Miami of Ohio. I was pissed off when the Steelers got him. I think he's first ballot Hall of Famer. So I'm not ripping him. I just think that the personalities on that team got so big they kind of imploded themselves. All right, let's move on. And, Scott, just because you're sitting up in the stands and you see a guy that looks to be open, they may be trying to bait you into thinking he's open. Correct, Brian?
There was no one within 15 yards.
Hey, trust me. I mean, there's all kind of show coverages and stuff, and you can't see you're not seeing it from field view. You're seeing it up high, and I can tell you this.
No, I was on like the 8th row. I was right there.
That makes it even worse because you definitely can't see it then.
Go back and look at that game the last time they played at home when they did that pick 6 against the previous Super Bowl game. I think it was Seattle, but watch that last drive.
All right, he's beaten Seattle both times he's ever played them. And he's
it wasn't Seattle. It was it was Super Bowl champion the previous year. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was early in the season. He threw a pick 6 almost on the goal line.
Well, luckily, Ben Roethlisberger's never thrown a stupid interception, so you win that argument.
That's
Next
true.
up,
That's
the
true.
New York Giants. Matt, we'll let you talk since Matt might fall asleep on us. The New York Giants are 7-point underdogs at Dallas, taking on the Cowboys. What do you think? Can the Giants pull this off? Will the Cowboys have Zeke?
I thought the Giants had more of a chance if Zeke was truly holding out, but they're probably going to get this contract done, and he'll be out there, and I don't think there's going to be any problems. The Giants are interesting in some areas, but overall, I don't think they're that good of a team. The Cowboys have a lot of question marks, but I think they're definitely good enough to win this game. So I'll take them to win by more than 7.
All right, Brian?
I so badly want to be able to, even though I don't think the Giants will win, I so badly want to take them in the points because I don't like the 7 points. But I'm going to take Dallas because I don't have any trust in the Giants. But I tell you, I don't like the 7 points. There's something I think I just feel like it's too many points. But I'm going to take the
For the record, I agree with Brian.
And for the record, I agree with Brian so much that I'm taking the New York Giants and the 7 points here, Scott.
I think Mike, I think you make a good point, but I
didn't
think
really
they make
a
better
point. I just said I'm going to take the 7 points.
I got it. I think I'm curious. If Daniel Jones was starting this game, I think the Giants are going to score more points.
Oh, my
Eli,
God. Would you stop?
What?
He's a kid that's never played an NFL game in his life, and now he's better than a guy that's won 2 Super Bowls.
I'm just saying, I don't think Eli is very good anymore at all.
So you don't think it has something to do with the atrocious offensive line he's been stuck with?
I'm not arguing that at all. Mike, I'm not arguing that at all. I just don't think New York's offense is going to score a lot of points. But I agreed with the other guys that this just smells like a trap game from Vegas. It really does. But I still think I think they can win by more than 7, so I'll take the Cowboys.
All right. I actually wouldn't be surprised if the Giants jump up and win this game. There's a lot of crap going on in Dallas.
I would be pretty surprised.
I think this. I think Eli Manning is a Hall of Fame quarterback. You got Saquon Barkley in the backfield. Still got Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram catching the ball. I think defensively they've gotten a little bit better, and I think offensive line they were improved, especially the second half of last year. And this is the big thing that I do know. I'm not looking at any numbers here, but I'm pretty sure that over the last 5 or 6 years, even when the Giants aren't that good, they play the Cowboys tough and occasionally beat them in Dallas. So I'm going to go with the Giants to cover. I think the Cowboys probably squeak by here, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Giants pull an upset. Next up, Matt, you get to go first. And the great thing for you is this is a pickup game now. So all we got to do is pick a winner here. So if you go to betnow.eu and use the promo code TRUTH50, you can just pick up a straight game here, Matt. The San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nobody is favored by anything. Matt?
Really? I thought Tampa was favored by 1.
Now it's down to a pick 'em.
Yeah, even, huh? Okay. Well, I just don't see how Tampa Bay is that good of a team. Now, if they had Ryan Fitzpatrick, they might win a few games early in the season, like we saw last year. As Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, has been the best quarterback for every other team in the AFC East. They don't have him anymore. They got Jameis Winston. I don't trust him at all. I think their number 1 receiver, Mike Evans, is he's probably going to play, but he's hobbled with a quad injury. I really don't know that their running backs are that great, and I think they've lost some pieces on defense. I think their offensive line is really going to have a problem with DeForest Buckner, Nick Bosa, and D Ford coming off the edge. I think they're going to have a real problem even protecting Jameis Winston, and I really don't see how they're going to stop George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Matt Breida, Tevin Coleman, and Jimmy Garoppolo, and even Dante Pettis is probably going to get some looks there. I think the Niners go into Tampa and beat them pretty well. I don't see really where Tampa's got an advantage.
All right, Scott, you're going to go next, and remember this. Matt is a San Francisco 49ers fan, so it's kind of like listening to you overhype the Bengals.
Well, I think both.
I'm open to being wrong. Bosa is going to play.
Oh, he is going to play.
He is going to play.
All right. Well, I mean, either way, I'm curious of what you think on this about Garoppolo, because I'm hearing they're saying he since that tear he's not been the same. They don't have George Kittle. Either way,
they got George Kittle. What are you talking about?
No.
I'm sorry. Where are you? What are you hearing?
No. I apologize. I was totally wrong. I mean, I don't.
He's
think
in Ohio. They've got legal marijuana now. Matt, go ahead.
That's true. That's disclaimer. I don't smoke weed. I think
so far you haven't said one thing correct, but go ahead.
Outside of Kittle and Coleman, I don't know how much help they've got. I just wonder about Garoppolo. I'm curious to see what you think he's going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah, he's healthy. That's still the only question mark is he how's he going to? He hasn't played a whole season. That's the question mark. If he's healthy, he's a very good quarterback.
True. I like whoever said you don't trust Jameis. I think you said it, Mike. Winston,
I didn't say it. I haven't talked about the game yet. It was just Matt.
Whoever it was, man, I totally agree with you. I think Winston is a selfish head case. I just think he chokes in big time situations. So I'm going to take San Francisco on this one.
Well, luckily it's game one, so it's not really a big time situation yet. So maybe he's got a chance.
Right.
I see. We're having our fun here. Mm-hmm.
What? No, it's not a big time situation.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
You're going to hurt my feelings,
Scott. I just think
so, Scott, who did you pick, the 49ers or the Bucs?
San Fran, 49ers.
Okay. Brian, you buying into Matt's San Francisco 49er hype? We heard this last year at the start of the season, too.
Yes, we did. And
in Minnesota, it's a much different situation.
I agree with some things that have been said, but I am going to be a little bit different here. I'm going to take Tampa. I don't trust Winston, but not a high pressure situation. Until we see how Garoppolo comes back from this injury, I don't trust him either right now. I want to see how he comes back. I think he's got an opportunity to be a great quarterback, but we haven't seen it because he gets injured pretty quick. So I just don't like the 49ers on the road, going all the way to to Florida, all the way. I just don't like this game for them. So I'll take Tampa.
All right. This may not make much sense, but I'm going to take Tampa. But I would say that San Francisco would be my dark horse Super Bowl team out of the NFC because I really believe what Matt said. I really like this roster. But right now, this early in the season, from watching Garoppolo, I don't know if he's ready to really play at his best right now. I think if they could survive the first 3 or 4 weeks, I think he kicks it into gear. If he stays healthy, this team could go on a run because I think they're really talented. And it wasn't a joke, Scott, when I said it's not a high-pressure situation. So I think Jameis Winston will come out and ball out, as the young kids say today. And if they win the game the next week, there'll be more pressure. He'll shit his pants and go back, and they'll be 1-1. So, I mean, overall, it would not surprise me if Garoppolo comes out and plays like Garoppolo can play. I think the Niners blow this game out. I'm just going to err on the side of caution, and I'm going to take the Bucs in a no-pressure situation with Jameis Winston. And I think the Bucs win the game, but in the end, the 49ers will win the war if you look at the two teams' record at the end. Fair enough, Matt?
Fair enough. Although
right.
I do think if the Niners have a problem with Tampa, this is going to call some things into question.
It's according what the problem is. The problem is Garoppolo just doesn't have his timing yet. I mean, because how many snaps has he taken in preseason? He hadn't played a whole lot, has he?
He played the first quarter of the Denver game, and he played the first half against Kansas City. The Kansas City game was the one I was really concerned with, and he played very well.
Yeah, but it's also preseason. I don't know.
I agree.
I think this. I think,
and he didn't have Kittle.
Remember Tampa Bay last year? Will you quit ripping on Scott? All right, but when you look at last year, Tampa Bay went to New Orleans and won early. They won a few games they weren't supposed to early. I just think this is one of those games. Yeah, what about Fitzpatrick?
I'd be scared. I'd be scared if this was Fitzpatrick. This is Jameis Winston.
Nobody's afraid if it's Fitzpatrick unless it's like, I don't know.
Hey, I'm just trying to give him some credit.
Yeah. All right, next up, we have the special. Bet now. Why in the hell is this game even being played? Game of the week, which is the Detroit Lions.
All right.
At the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona is 2.5-point underdogs, so the Lions are favored by 2.5. I'll start this off. I will take the Lions and give 2.5 points against the Arizona Cardinals all day long. And I just want to know if there'll be, during TV timeouts, if the Arizona Cardinal players, Brian, will be allowed to use their cell phones.
This game for me is I'm going to take Detroit, but I'm not a big fan of Detroit. I want to be a big fan. I want to be a big fan of Arizona because we're, being an air raid guy, and I want to be a big fan, but I'm not.